Hello, my creeplings. We're back. We're about halfway through the Evil Dead Ash Williams saga series. So, quick recap as to where we were versus where we are now. We have been through the original trilogy of movies where Ash has survived 2 nights in the cabin and a trip to the Middle Ages. Now he's back. Production-wise, there has been, 30-odd years in between when Army of Darkness was released and when Ash vs. Evil Dead was released. The love for the franchise never died. There were video games and comic books put out in this 30-year interim. Again, this is where I talk about alternate timelines for the Ash character himself. I believe I've mentioned those. But the fans really hungered for more Bruce as Ash Williams. We got that installment of the soft reboot remake in, I believe, 2013, which again, I know y'all can call me out for this. I have not watched it yet. It is on the list, probably for one of the Halloween viewings. I did get a copy of it from someone, so it's in my rotation of stuff to watch. But that just fueled the fire for more. We want Ash. We want Ash. We want Ash. In the meantime, from the Army of Darkness years to the Ash vs. Evil Dead years, Renaissance Pictures worked on a very big set of TV shows. Now, if you are a late Gen Xer, millennial, and maybe even whatever, Xennial, or not Xennial, that millennial, Gen Z, Zoomer, they might remember this, but I know the late Gen Xers and I know the early millennials, that Xennial era. We remember Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and Xena Warrior Princess. These were done by Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and Rob Tappert's production company, Renaissance Pictures. They filmed in New Zealand, and things got really tight. We got so tight that Tappert married one of the leads. Rob Tappert married Lucy Lawless, lead of Xena Warrior Princess. Ted had worked on Xena and Hercules, more Xena than Hercules. He was like the 3rd most featured character in the Xenaverse. Bruce was on both. I think he was featured more on Hercules, though, as Autolycus, King of Thieves. So these guys are all working together. They're getting introduced to a new crew of people. A lot, and when you look at the crew lists, like for directors and writers and stuff, there's a lot of overlap from the people that they used in Xena and Hercules, which I refer to as the Xenaverse because Xena, I think, became the bigger and more fan-loved series, even though Hercules was first. I know a lot of people refer to it as the Xenaverse, so if you hear me talk about Xenaverse, that's what I'm talking about. They share a lot of directors, writers, I believe, production company people. It's a family affair, So, when it came time for Sam and Bruce to talk about bringing Ash back, that's what they did. They went to New Zealand and they brought in the old Xenaverse and Hercverse crews. And 30-something years later, we get the Starz series Ash vs. Evil Dead. Now, I was not fortunate enough to watch this in its first run because it was on Starz, which was a premium, still is, a premium cable channel, which means not only did you have to pay for basic cable, but you had to pay extra just for this channel, which at the time this came out, we couldn't afford it, and Starz wasn't doing much others that I had been interested in. So I did not get a hold of this thing until about 3 years ago. I had always wanted to watch it. I watched the premiere when it was, free on demand, and I'm like, ooh, this looks good. But we never got back to it. I made it a point to get back to it about 2-3 years ago. And, oh man, I'm so pissed I missed it. We have some old faces show up as new characters, and we have new faces show up. The cast is just amazing. I'm going to focus on season 1 for this episode, simply because if I tried to do an overview of all 3 seasons, we'd probably be sitting here for at least an hour, and I would lose steam. Just simply because this series, these seasons, just like the movies, are a wild fucking ride. Hold on to your hats. You've got effects, you've got humor, you've got Ash being Ash, and you've got a whole lot of fun. So, I've got my notes here, so I'm going to kind of look back at a few things. It's what? Wrong page. It's announced that this is going to be done at a Comic-Con, I believe in 2013. I don't see it on here. The show premiered on October 31st, 2015. So, Halloween 2015, Ash Williams returned to the world of the Evil Dead. Right now, in the timeline, Ash is pretty much at a dead end. He still has the book. He's kind of been its de facto guardian for the past 30-odd years. Now, other things you're going to notice. They don't mention anything about Army of Darkness, and I believe there's things from Evil Dead 2 that are only alluded to rather than outright explained, and I think it had to do with a rights issue, which all the rights issues were worked out by the time they started filming season 2. Same reason why we ended up with that recap at both the beginning of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness rights issues. So instead of working at S-Mart, Ash is working at Value Stop, which I think, and I cannot remember exactly where I heard this, but it was a podcast focused on Bruce Campbell and the Evil Dead, that Value Stop had merged with S-Mart, and that's why Ash is there. Ash is still a stock boy, he's still Ash. Now, he's got a friend in his 20s named Pablo Simon Bolivar. Now, Pablo is played to perfection by Ray Santiago. He's kind of nerdy, kind of unsure of himself. He calls Ash El Jefe, the boss. He's Honduran. But Ash always is like, my Mexican friend, and he's like, I'm Honduran, right? We are also introduced to Pablo's upstairs neighbor / best friend / huge crush object, Kelly Maxwell, played by Ohio girl Dana DiLorenzo. Kelly is our queen, and you will see why. I'm kind of trying to channel my inner Kelly today. And Dana, from one Ohio girl to another girl, I love you. Just keep it up. I hope to meet you someday and just be able to give you a big hug and say, you did good, girl. You got out of here. You made a name for yourself, and girl, you're my age and you look good. She's like in her late 30s playing in her 20s. In this show. I mean, I honestly thought she was 10, 15 years younger than me, and then I find out she's only like 3. I'm like, damn, girl. So, good for her. She's an amazing actress. And the thing about Kelly is a smartass. She's kind of like Ash's spiritual daughter. And so we start out with Ash at S-Mart. And, okay, I've made specific notes for episodes, and I have the overview notes. I'm going to be going back and forth because, like I said, this is a wild fucking ride, and I want to make sure that I highlight certain things. But so episode 1, the title is El Jefe. It was actually directed by Sam. So Sam has directed every portion in some way, shape, or form of the Ash Williams saga. Now, I don't know that he worked on the video games, but I know all the movies, and season 1, he's had his hand. Now, he is a producer, he's a creative consultant, so everything, he's involved. Ash is his spiritual son, I guess. So, but Sam and Ivan did a lot of writing for this. This episode was specifically written by Sam, Ivan, and one of the regular writers, Tom Spesley. I believe I'm pronouncing his last name right. So we find out that Ash lost the metallic hand. He now has a carved wooden hand. So there's a lot of, wood jokes going on there. He is living in a trailer park. We're talking, old Airstream being pulled by the Delta. The Delta has not died, nor will the Delta ever die. That thing will end up going through hell and back, and it still survives. He has a lizard named Eli, and he has basically spent the last 30 years just floating from value stop to value stop, town to town. I'm assuming that's why he lives in a trailer, so he can cut quickly. He's guardian of the book, and everything's been quiet for 30 years. Until Ash gets stoned one night with a hot younger chick and tries to impress her by reading poetry. He pulls the book out stoned off his ass and starts reciting passages, because somehow he had managed to get some phonetic understanding of the Kandarian language, and the evil has awakened, and it seeps in slowly. The girl he was with that night ends up becoming a Deadite, and this is where we pull in one of our other characters, Amanda Fisher. She is a Michigan State police officer. She is played by, where is she? Jill Marie Jones. The long and the short of that is the possessed date, for Ash's possessed date, ends up killing her partner in a shooting situation. Partner goes deadite, and she's now on suspension, internal affairs, the whole 9 yards. She ends up coming to the conclusion that Ash is responsible for all of the death and craziness that's happening. So half of the first season is her on a manhunt trying to catch him. Okay, so the evil seeps in. It follows Ash to work. And this is where first we get Ash meeting Kelly for the first time and hitting on her, and it doesn't go well. He's planning on cutting town, so he's trying to get his check and get out early. But of course, the evil shows up. We have a fight with a little Lori doll, which is very reminiscent of the kind of the hand fight and the mini Ash fights from previous installments. Pablo takes a very distraught Kelly, because Kelly's getting a video call from her dad about some weird shit that's going on at their house. And Pablo's like, I think I know a guy who can help us. And it turns out he's thinking Ash. Well, we get to Ash's Airstream, and Ash is attacked by his neighbor, who is now a Deadite. He actually has the Airstream rigged up where there's a shotgun hidden, and his chainsaw is still there, ready to be rigged up. So Ash is back, baby. Great bloody opening moment, or opening fight scene. Not even opening, early fight scene. And Kelly has a great Cheryl level hysterical moment, which just kudos to you, Dana. I can't get enough. The Raimi angles are back in full force. So we get to a point where, again, we're getting through to some of these, like we're going through the first and into the second. Kelly freaks out, steals, I'm assuming it's Pablo's bike, and she's like, I need to go check on my dad, because it seems like her mother has returned from the dead. Her mom died in a car accident 6 months earlier or something. So they think that Kelly stole the book. So Pablo and Ash go follow Kelly to her parents' house because Pablo knows where they live. And yes, her mother is alive. Ash is very suspicious, thinks she's a deadite. Turns out he's right. But Kelly didn't steal the book. Pablo hid it so that he could get Ash to go help Kelly. By the end of all of that, Kelly's parents are both dead. And she is pretty much, she's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to fight this, stop this. Let's go kick evil in the ass. We go through that, and Ash apparently knows an occult book dealer who's very interested in the Necronomicon, so they go try to find him. I should say go to meet him. They know where he is. We have a mysterious stranger following them in a lovely red sports car, played by the flawless Lucy Lawless. The character goes by the name of Ruby Noby, claiming to be Annie's sister. We'll find out how true that is later. She has Ash's hand. Yeah, the hand is still slowly awakening, still rotting out. But she has that hand, and it's pointing her to Ash. We find out she's able to raise deadites, and she's got the Kandarian dagger. We're also finding out that the dagger actually harms deadites. It can cause their skin to burn and all kinds of fun stuff. And she's after Ash as well. She meets up with Amanda Fisher somewhere in there, because Amanda is following Ash as well. We get to the book place now. We get more history on the book at the Occult Bookshop. It's written by the Dark Ones. And the place is called Books from Beyond. I love that name, by the way. They managed to convince the bookstore owner to summon a lesser demon named Elegos. Now, Ash thinks he's just going to interrogate this demon, kick its ass, and figure out how to, end all of this. Typical Ash. Quickest way to do things may not be the rightest way to do things. But unfortunately, Ash breaks the summoning circle. And any of you Supernatural fans know what happens when you break the circle. So they're having to fight Elegos. Now, Elegos is a demon that feeds off of fear. It's definitely a mental mindfuck demon. So we have a really good mix of practical effects, guy in a suit, and digital effects for some of the powers of Elegos is like very well done. Very well done. Fisher shows up, and while this is happening, I think Kelly ends up handcuffing her, and they leave her there after Kelly grabs the book and smacks Elegos on the back of the head. They think they defeated him, and so they leave. They leave Amanda at the bookstore. The bookstore owner is killed by Elagos. This is important because it shows up in the next episode. We also find out that Pablo is actually descended from, well, I don't know if he's descended from, but his uncle is a brujo, which is Spanish for a male witch. It comes from, I guess they come from a line of shamans. And they kind of think that he's convinced them that they need to go visit his uncle, the brujo. So next episode, Ruby shows up and saves Fisher from the bookstore situation where the owner has turned deadite and come back. And so now Fisher and Ruby are teamed up to chase Ash and stop Ash. We meet Pablo's uncle. They only ever call him El Brujo. They don't give him a name. The actor's name is Hemke something. Hemke Madeira. Now, I have not seen him in anything else, but I love him as El Brujo. It's hinted that he was trying to groom Pablo to take over to be a shaman. And that Pablo turned away, and now Pablo's running back with his tail between his legs. And Uncle Brujo sees Ash, and he's like, "You might be a jefe. You have a light, but it's very, very dim." So Jefe sends Ash on a spiritual vision quest, i.e. sends him on a drug trip. This whole time since they've left the bookstore, Kelly is getting really sick. And she thinks it's just because of the fight. No. While Ash is on his trip, and he learns a lot about himself, about, where his strengths lie and what he might need to do. And this is where the idea of Jacksonville being his happy place comes up, which plays in later. We find out that Kelly is actually possessed by Elagos. And she does her best to try and seduce Pablo so she can off him. And, I can't remember why, but she ends up watching over Ash while he's on his vision quest, while El Brujo is not in the room, and she starts attacking Ash. So we go to the next episode, and Ash, they walk in, and Elagos, as Kelly, convinces them that Ash is the one that's possessed, and they need to exorcise the demon. So they time up, they tend to do an exorcism, nothing happens. This is where Kelly attempts to kill Pablo. It's really cool. She made a bong out of the shotgun and tried to get him high, and she blows it. It's an interesting scene to watch. But they figure it out, and they exorcise Kelly. But we lose El Brujo in the process. Elagos kills him. Now, Pablo has also been busy this entire time while they're waiting for Ash to get back from his drugs. He makes Ash a new hand, so we have a return of a mechanical hand. It's not from a piece of armor. It's from an old, I think, power glove from a video game. So now we don't have to worry about Bruce holding the wooden hand all the time. It's a functional hand. It looks really cool. Pablo's smart. And he's very useful. Now, when they go to lay El Brujo to rest, they burn him on a funeral pyre. He kind of spiritually, within what's the word I'm looking for? Pablo hears his voice. He passes the torch on to Pablo. One of his charms flies out, and out of the pyre, Pablo's kind of hot. But this necklace is kind of a protection amulet. So now Pablo is slowly going to realize a lot more about the mystical world, and he ends up becoming a very interesting character when it comes to the book. Now, they decide to go back to the cabin. Oh wait, no, I jumped ahead, excuse me. In between the Brujo dying and the group, they call themselves the Ghost Beaters. The Ghost Beaters trying to figure out their next move, so they leave. Ruby and Fisher come upon the aftermath of El Brujo's place. El Brujo's skeleton is reanimated and ends up pulling Ruby into, I believe, the funeral pyre, and we think she's dead. So Amanda steals Ruby's car to pursue Ash. The hand is now missing. They're at breakfast, and Ash decides that he needs to head back to the cabin. I can't remember why. Let me see. No. But, yeah, they decide to go to the cabin. And while they're at this diner, they meet one of Ash's older friends, a guy named Lem, who's actually now part of one of those backwoods militias. So, Ash gets the idea to go with Lem to arm up. And, unfortunately, the Deadites, descend upon the diner. Lem manages to escape. Fisher, before the Deadites attack, Fisher does find them. She calls it in so that Ash can be arrested. Now, we also find out that the book does not like Pablo's amulet. It starts bouncing around in its box and making all kinds of noise. Fisher does try to arrest Ash, but we have a Deadite possession in the Pancake House. Carnage ensues. Kelly does go psycho on a Deadite, and it's kind of overkill, and it's kind of cute to watch. I know that sounds weird, but it again, the beauty that is Dana. So Fisher has now been exposed and explained and understands what's happening now. She decides to join the group, and they head to the militia camp. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't spit that out. Now, the cabin we thought was in Tennessee. For this continuity, the cabin is now in Michigan. So, okay, makes sense. So we just ignore one of Ash's first lines in Evil Dead, and the cabin's in Michigan now, which actually makes a lot of sense. Southern Michigan, especially southeast Michigan, where it meets up with northwest Ohio, all very similar. Lots of, farmland and forested land. Lots of campgrounds, lots of cabins for rent. I'll buy it. So Lem ends up possessed as a Deadite and hits the camp and starts picking people off. Of course, Amanda is recognized as a cop, so they handcuff her and Ash together and throw them into an underground armory where Lem has taken refuge. And there's a lovely cat and mouse game going on there. Ruby rises from the dead. Kelly and Pablo escape into the woods. It's chaos. Lem is chasing these guys through an armory with kerosene and a lit match, and he's totally intent on blowing this fucker up. We get a lot of cute banter with Kelly and Pablo while they're trying to, evade these militia idiots and figure out how to help Ash. they eventually are all successful. The group is reunited. They are let go with weaponry. What's left of the militia escapes. And the closing shot of this particular episode, called Fire in the Hole, you see the hand walking towards the cabin, because the hand knew what it was doing. We now make it to the cabin. Ash is separated. I shouldn't say separated. He shakes them and goes to the cabin alone. We have a lot of Ash facing this cabin alone. This is this man's albatross. But the Ghost Beaters, again, they call themselves the Ghost Beaters, manage to follow him and find him. They go over some of the highlights of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, those 2 harrowing nights that Ash spent in that cabin. There are 3 Australian hikers. We have a guest appearance by Samara Weaving, who's quickly becoming a modern scream queen. In these woods, they're lost, and Pablo and Kelly find them. And they are Brad, Melissa, and Heather. Now, Heather is the Samara Weaving character. Melissa, actually, if any of you, again, younger millennials, remember on Nickelodeon H2O, Just Add Water, the Mermaid Show, she was one of the girls on there for the last season, I believe. The actress's name is Indiana Evans. She's done a few other things here in the States, but she's an Australian actress. I kept looking at her going, I know I'd seen her somewhere, and it turns out it was like a Lifetime movie in H2O. So Ash has to go back out to the shed, and he is confronted by Linda's head. It had rotted out to his skeleton, but of course, Deadite powers make it Linda's head again. And it's talking to him and taunting him. And the whole time this is happening, while Pablo and Kelly are out in the woods with the hikers, Amanda's in the cabin, and she thinks she's talking to Ash because the hand has spawned a bad Ash. Yes, we have another good Ash, bad Ash situation here. Of course, bad Ash is hitting on Fisher while Linda's head is causing all kinds of tools to attack Ash. He loses his hand again. Evil Ash and Fisher she figures it out, and they have a fight, and he kills her. Now, good Ash and Fisher do have a little bit of a tender moment, because she had been starting to warm up to him the entire time, the short time that they were on the same side. They share a tender moment before she dies. It's actually quite touching. It's nice to see Bruce being able to play that sincere moment. Goes to show you the man's range. Then we have Ash versus Ash. Old Geezer edition. It's hilarious. This is one of the highlights of season 1, is the Ash versus Ash fight. Because I'll just say BA and GA, because trying to say all those Ashes in the same sentence is making me say other words. BA says something about, like, I'm you, I know all your tricks. So GA is like, oh, so you know about the trick shoulder, pops his shoulder. Soft balls, kicks him in the... I mean, it is like watching 2 grumpy old men fight, but it's the same grumpy old man fighting himself. Love it. Absolutely love it. And we get to a point where, you know, we're almost done with the season. And, Pablo and Kelly manage to, they leave the hikers, because they insist they can keep going on. And, they walk in to the cabin, and they find Amanda dead, and they walk in on the Geezer fight. Pablo and Kelly do figure out which one is bad Ash, and they dispose of him. Racism jokes. It's one of those, how do you know I'm me? How do you know he's not me? And some bad casual racism jokes manage to make them figure out who's who. Hikers finally admit that they're lost, and they find the cabin. Now, Ash is chopping up the evil clone for like the 18th time, and the spilled blood activates the book. It gives it new powers. Now Fisher, he didn't get to Fisher in time though. She turns deadite and attacks Kelly, Pablo, and the hikers. She kills Brad and Melissa. We're left with lovely Heather, practically, injured and practically unable to move, because her leg is broken, and Ruby has risen from the dead and shows up to save the day, but Deadite Fisher escapes. Ash seems to think burying the book at the cabin is going to stop all this. Ruby tells them, no, I know more about this book than you do. You literally have to deface the book, as in cut the face off before you bury it. And they must use the Kandarian dagger to do it. Now, they're all under the impression that Ruby is Professor Nobi's kid, Annie's sister. So they're all like, okay, yeah, she knows the history of the book because of her family. We're about to find out some other shit here that comes into play with the other seasons. Ash has to ritualistically transfer ownership of the book to Ruby. Now, we will talk about this in season 2, but I don't think Ash really owns the book. I don't think Ash is the reason why all this happened. I really do think that rests on Professor Nobi's shoulders, but because this poor man got stuck in this situation, he has been the guardian of all this bullshit for over 30 years, and oh my god, I just want to hug you, Ash Williams. I am so sorry. Can you tell I really love this character and this world and the people that make this? Now, during the ritual of transference, the now removed face of the book decides to attach itself to Pablo. Because apparently we need the face attached to something, because we find out that Ruby is the Dark One that wrote the damn book. Ruby is fucking immortal. Ruby is the problem here. Ruby's played perfectly by Lucy Lawless. I always want to love her, but now, like, when that twist showed up, I'm like, you bitch! You old whore, you. In the most loving way possible, Lucy. I love you so much. Everything I've seen you do, now granted, I have not seen your entire body of work, but everything I've seen you do, I love. I love. And I loved this. You made me go, you bitch! Final episode, big episode. The Fisher Deadite returns and is killed. Ruby takes Pablo to the cellar of the cabin. Now, it is never, ever explained why they have to keep going back to this goddamn cabin. But they have to keep going back to the goddamn cabin. Because Ruby is going to use Pablo now to birth her spawn, to take over the darkness. Ruby pulls Ash into like a trance, dreamlike trance, to make a deal. We call a truce. I'll send you to your dream life in Jacksonville. You let me control the darkness. I want to bring order to the chaos. Which on the one hand, I can understand. We all want the chaos to not, in our lives, to not be chaos. We would like some order. We want it, the bad stuff to be controlled. I get what she's saying, but girl. Girl! So, the whole time this is happening, the house has physically ejected Kelly. And she is just going nuts. Because she started chopping into the cellar floor to get to Ash and Ruby and Pablo, who are down there. And the house just ejects her ass out and locks itself up tighter than a bull's ass during fly season, as my grandmother used to say. The book has now full-on possessed Pablo, and Ruby is using it to birth her spawn. He's like vomiting up sacs, the amniotic sacs that spawn these. They're bigger than toddlers, but they're not like full-grown adults, but these spawn will grow quickly. Heather is still around. But the house pretty much attacks her while Kelly's trying to get in. It re-injures her leg. It throws nails at her. It's a really good death scene. It ultimately kills her. Kelly, in return, sets the cabin on fire, and it's like, oh, fuck this. I'm letting this bitch in. So the cabin is semi-sentient, almost. Ash does manage to incapacitate Ruby. But the book and Ruby make Pablo attack Ash, which is just sad to watch. Kelly gets to the basement finally and pulls Pablo off, and she has a fight with him, which is even sadder. We do find out, though, while Ruby is immortal, the dagger can hurt her. So that's pretty cool. Now, Ash renegotiates the deal when he realizes he's not gonna triumph over this. He's like, okay, I give you the book. You control the darkness. But you let Pablo and Kelly go with me. We'll go to Jacksonville. And as long as you can keep this under control, we're good. And that's how we end it. We end it with Pablo and Kelly and Ash. Pablo is no longer possessed by the book. No book face on him. Leaving Michigan amid news of sinkholes opening in the counties around them and the darkness converging behind them. That was just season 1, guys. I have been sitting here rambling for almost 40 minutes. That was one season of 10 episodes, each one roughly 30 to 45 minutes. And we have 2 more of these to go. So if you have been with me and you were not an original Evil Dead series fan and you started watching and you got into it, just know that this shit gets crazier. There is a part of me that is both fascinated and afraid of walking around in these guys' minds. Like, this all had to come from somewhere. Now, I know they're at the point with season 1 where they want to go balls to the walls and top everything. But, like, being in Sam's head, that has to be, wow. I really want to know how these guys grew up. That upbringing had to be interesting. I know a little bit about the Raimi boys, and that at one point it was a 5-child family. Both parents were business owners. They did lose a brother to a drowning accident. And they have a sister who's not in show business. I want to say that Ivan's the oldest out of the family, and then I think it's the sister. Then it would have been, I think, Sam, then the brother that passed away, and then Ted's the youngest. So there's a good gap between Sam and Ted. Now, I've heard some stories. One of them I heard straight out of Ted's mouth at Horror Hound when he and Ivan did their panel. And these boys were creative motherfuckers to be from the beginning. Being their neighborhood playmate had to be interesting. And being their baby brother, oh, you poor man. Ted, I'm sorry. As an older sister, I know sometimes we can't help but pick on the babies. Actually, I shouldn't say that. My baby sister's like my baby girl. But yeah, sometimes we can't help but pick on younger siblings. I think it's just because we're trying to push boundaries. But if half of what I've heard is true, oh baby, I'm sorry. Oh sweet baby boy, I am so sorry. And Ivan and Sam, come on guys, you should know better. Ivan's an interesting character, and I've said before, if you get to sit in with him at a panel at a con, he's just so different from the other two. I know nothing about their sister other than the fact that they have a sister, and I think she's in law, but I'm not sure. But yeah, that was Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1. I binge watched this with my husband rather than... This is why, like, on the one hand, I'm kind of mad I missed it the first time around, but when it came out, it was not a big thing for streaming services to drop entire seasons of shows all at once. It was definitely more of a weekly thing, where on the one hand, I think that would have pissed me off. Because how they leave these episodes. These episodes are exactly like the movies. Where one ends, they literally start the beat of the beginning of the next one beginning is literally in the next beat. So, you know, one of the early episodes, I think the first and second episode ends with Ash defeating the Deadites in his trailer, and like beginning of episode 2, it's like literally the next sentence that would have been out of Pablo's mouth. So I would have been pissed on the one hand for having to wait. Binge watching it was so fun, but it happened so quick for me. But my husband and I binge watched this for the first time we watched it, and I just remember going, like, every other thing that happened, I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. So if you are new to the Ash Williams saga, this series is just as good. In some ways, it's even better, just because technology's gotten better. The crew was so tight because, again, they had worked with a lot of them from the Xena years. Just go out and watch Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1 and let me know what you think. I know this video was long. I don't know how I really wanted to attack television series, so I'm rambling. We have 2 more seasons, and then my little birthday indulgence will be done. Season 2's got a familiar face show up in... Actually, it's got 2 familiar faces showing up in interesting capacities. We get some really big names show up as well. So... yeah, season 1 ended up being a big hit. It was one of the biggest hits for Starz in a while. And they, I think, it was, either shortly before or shortly after season 1 premiered, they greenlit season 2. They knew they were going to get their money's worth out of them. And, yeah, so, yeah, Sam returning to the director. Sure, some of the other directors, Michael Hurst. I always love an episode he directs. He worked with them. He was the sidekick in Hercules Legendary Journeys. Turns out he's a very good TV director. He did a bunch of Xenoverse and Hercules episodes. He worked on Jack of All Trades with Bruce and did some of those episodes. He acted in one. I think he directed a couple. You can tell he was comfortable because those are some of the standout episodes for me. But yeah, we got some amazing additions to the group, to the lore. Pablo and Kelly are just so precious and played to perfection by their actors. Follow their work. Get to know them. Lucy Lawless makes a triumphant return to the Renaissance Pictures family. Now, I know she also was, Renaissance Pictures did Spartacus and Spartacus Blood and Sand, which she was a big part of. I guess it helps when your husband is the producer, but I hesitate to say this is a nepotism. Maybe it is, but she she proved she was a good actor before she got involved personally with the group. But yeah, she's part of the Renaissance Pictures family to me now. But yeah, go watch it. This is definitely a hoot and a holler. We absolutely love Ash in my home, and this is one of the many reasons why. Bruce is in like wonderful form here, considering he's, you know, I think he was a grandpa by this point in his real life. So it goes to show you, you know, and he's still, I mean, I know he had a stunt double, but he's still throwing himself around, doing this physical comedy, doing as much of the stunts as he can. I mean, I'm impressed with the man. Bruce Campbell is like awesome. But I have been rambling on for long enough. We will be back to talk about season 2, which will probably be just as long, if not longer, because there's a lot going on. And I am going to go off, I can tell you, on a few tangents, some small, some large. So, on that note, I'm going to just say good night, my creeplings, and say it with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.